Happily, however, we are informed by our prophetic leaders that notwithstanding our wrong political philosophy, our moral decay, the kingdom of God, which is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, will survive. For this is the dispensation of the fullness of times. A great many Latter-day Saints will fail. A great many of them are not now and never have been living up to their privileges and magnifying their callings and their priesthood. And God will have a reckoning with such people. The spread of effeminacy, girls looking and acting like men, men looking and acting like girls, disregard of religion. Do you recognize any of these symptoms in the United States today? There are certain crimes and offensive conduct which will this year bring immediate suspension from this university. In general, these are offenses involving moral turpitude, such as adultery or fornication or other breaches of the Mormon moral code. Nor do we intend to admit to our campus any homosexuals. If any of you have this tendency and have not completely abandoned it, may I suggest that you leave the campus immediately after this assembly, and if you'll be honest enough to let us know the reason, we will refund your tuition. We do not want others on this campus to be contaminated by your presence.
What message do you have for the LGBT young single adults? I want anyone who is a member of the church, who is gay or lesbian, to know I believe you have a place in the kingdom and recognize that sometimes it may be difficult for you to see where you fit in the Lord's church, but you do. We need to listen to and understand what our LGBT brothers and sisters are feeling and experiencing. Certainly, we must do better than we have done in the past so that all members feel they have a spiritual home where their brothers and sisters love them and where they have a place to worship and serve the Lord. Certainly, we must do better than we have done in the past.
Hello, everyone. We want to welcome you to this special broadcast of a kind of a historic and exciting evening as we talk a little bit about the Rainbow Y and BYU. We want to welcome the LatterGayStories audience and the many other platforms that are also broadcasting this special broadcast along with us. So hello to the Mormon Stories audience as well. And for the YouTube audiences, the Facebook audiences, the Twitch audiences, and those around who are sharing this broadcast, we invite you to share that as well. If you are watching, please click the share button and even comment or add a reaction, and it'll help us to spread this. We will probably be broadcasting here for an hour or so this evening as we discuss a little bit about what's happening at BYU. My name is Kyle Ashworth. For those of you who aren't following the LatterGayStories podcast, I am the host of the LatterGayStories podcast. It is a opportunity to draw closer to build bigger and stronger bridges between the LDS and LGBTQ community, but maybe more importantly, to create visibility and understanding towards the needs of the LGBTQ community in or out of Mormonism. So I want to welcome you. If you are a first-time follower, we invite you to follow the podcast and join the discussion. So tonight we have a special program. We're discussing a lot of the recent events that have happened at BYU, namely the new demonstration policy, the restrictions on protests at BYU, the controversy surrounding the BYU lighting program. That started about a year ago, maybe a little bit longer, maybe 2 years ago, with Color the Campus. Now, Color the Campus was a group of BYU students who wanted to bring visibility to the LGBTQ community on the BYU campus. And one of the opportunities that they had was lighting the BYU Y on Y Mountain. And that, as many of you will remember, was an opportunity to see the Y in color throughout all of the Utah Valley. Stay tuned. I'm sure you'll see some pretty impressive sights tonight. So we want to welcome you to welcome those who are just joining us on our multiple feed broadcast, the Mormon Stories audience, the LatterGayStories audience, and those who are sharing this episode as well. So just to brief everybody about what has happened lately, and maybe we should talk a little bit about what's happening at the Y at BYU and why the Y symbol has been so controversial. And maybe we should back up just a little bit and talk about the legalities. Now, maybe before I say that, I do want to say we have crews all over the place today. We have a crew here below the Y. We actually have a crew up in the parking lot at the trailhead. We also have cameras up on the Y. So throughout this broadcast, you're going to see multiple angles of what's going to happen tonight, which is super exciting for you, for those of you who aren't able to be here today. So in 2014, BYU finalized a purchase of the Y from the United States government, given the stipulation that BYU keep the trailhead, the mountain, and the Y symbol open to public access. And that seems to be what the controversy is about right now at BYU. BYU claims that because the Y is now private property that they purchased in 2014 officially for $180,000, they believe that the Y now becomes campus property, and they can legally kick people off of the Y, even though their agreement to purchase the Y property from the U.S. government included the provision that the public would have access to the trailhead, the mountain, and also the Y symbol. It was actually done by a number of Utah representatives. John Curtis, who is now in the House, who was the former mayor of Provo City, was involved. Jason Chaffetz, who also was in the House at the time, was involved. Senator Orrin Hatch and Senator Mike Lee, who is a current sitting senator for the state of Utah, facilitated the transaction between BYU and the U.S. government. So their fingerprints are all over the agreement, but I do hold in my hands a copy of the agreement, which interestingly, which does say that BYU, if they go forward with the purchase, is required to continue to allow reasonable public access to the trailhead and portion of the Y Mountain Trail already owned by Brigham Young University. And so the Y Mountain Trail, the Y symbol also, and that portion of the mountain. So Today, if a BYU student was to traverse the mountain and let the lights shine, they would be, according to BYU, cited for a misdemeanor and arrested. I believe Utah State Code for that type of a misdemeanor is 6 months or a year in jail and $1,000 fine. So just giving you an idea of what's happening, we have cameras at the trailhead, the BYU trail, the BYU Y Mountain trailhead, and we were just informed that the police department has shown up. So we will get some coverage of that here in just a moment. So BYU Police Department and perhaps Provo Police Department is also en route. We just heard on the scanner that was happening. So it does sound like indeed BYU is going to try to enforce a no trespassing order on the mountain, as people are already up there, maybe, possibly, perhaps ready to turn the Y rainbow colors. All right, so that was a lot. Welcome to those of you who are just joining us. My name is Kyle Ashworth from the LatterGayStories podcast. We have infiltrated, and thanks to the Mormon Stories audience, jumped onto this podcast as well. So hello to the Mormon Stories audience, the LatterGayStories audience, and those who are watching around the world. Let us know where you are watching from. Very interested in your comments as well throughout the night. You can add those into the live chat. We are broadcasting live on our Facebook and YouTube channels. So we are interested in hearing what you have to say as we go throughout the evening. As I did mention a little earlier, we do have cameras at the trailhead. We have cameras on the Y, and we do have cameras obviously down here on the park as well. So in a few minutes, we should see the Y light up in a couple amazing colors. And from what I'm told, this will be a unique lighting where typically the rainbow lighting happens in rainbow colors to celebrate the overall LGBTQ community. But today the lighting will be a little bit different, knowing so much of the political and community discussions surrounding the topics of transgender sports and athletes and legislation and bills. You will likely see the Y lit up in a little bit different color this evening. And then if time or the police department permits, there probably will be a rainbow lighting as well. So we're excited to have you along. A lot of people are wondering what the trailhead looks like, what it consists of as you get up there. The trail is about a little bit more than a mile long to get from the trailhead all the way up to the Y to get that lit. And I'm going to shoot over to another camera here and give you a chance to see the Y. There it is in the background on another camera that we have. You can see, I believe that's a drone back there in the background. It's filming a little bit of what's happening. We're down here at the park, just below the Y, so you can see that there in the background. So the hike, if you are to hike up to the Y symbol, which is a fun hike, it's about a mile, a little bit more than a mile. I think there's about 14 different switchback stops that get you up to the Y. We hiked it just a few days ago. I have some footage of that we can roll here in just a minute, just depending on what happens this evening. But the trail is partially snow covered right now. Today was a beautiful day in Provo, in the mid 60s with a slight breeze. Tomorrow it should be a little bit different, a little bit rainier. So for right now, the weather is really great, and it's a good opportunity to get up there and march around the hill. But there are, in some areas, it's still snow packed up on the Y trail. But it does take around 40 minutes to hike from the trailhead all the way up to the Y. And the Y is separated into two sections. There's the lower half of the Y symbol, and then the upper half of the Y symbol. And there are benches and little picnic tables that separate those two. So that's kind of an idea of what the hike looks like. Here in a few minutes, we can show you exactly what that looks like. We're going to keep our eye on the Y, though. You can see that in the background. Here in a few minutes, it should light up. As I did mention a little bit earlier, we do have cameras not only on the Y, we have cameras at the trailhead where we have been notified that the BYU Police Department is present. They are suited. They have started to arrive in force. So that's the BYU Police Department. We also heard on the dispatch, through dispatch, that Provo City Police Department had also been notified as well. So we're not exactly sure how BYU is going to enforce this, but we do have cameras at the trailhead where the officers are staged, and I can shoot over and kind of give you an idea of what that looks like as well. Sorry, bear with me. All right, looks like it's still a little dark in that area. But we do have cameras there on the trailhead. We have cameras up on the Y, and we are just waiting for that Y that you can see. Once it does light up, we should be able to get a little bit better shot of that for you. So you are looking at a live view of the Y in Provo as it prepares to be lit. The interesting part about the crew that may or may not be up on the mountain today is that according to the BYU, and I should pull that up, according to the BYU demonstration policy, which they just updated in December of this last year, there's some interesting things to note in the policy that I think a lot of us should pay attention to. So BYU is claiming that if you protest on the campus property, that protest, BYU has the authority to kick you off of the campus. When you read the demonstration policy, according to BYU, it does say that the policy is only specific to a few groups of people. It says current students, faculty, administrative employees, and staff. There we go. Now you can see that Y a little bit better. So right now you're looking at the Y that is colored in trans colors, blue, pink, and white. And for many people who are here in the park and surrounding us, we just heard an eruption of cheers. So this is pretty exciting. We're going to try to get our crew to zoom into that a little bit better so you can see that. But we are in Provo. That is the iconic BYU Y that is now lit up in the transgender colors in support of the transgender community. Please, if you're watching on Facebook or YouTube, share this, give us a comment, allow other people to take advantage of this opportunity to see this live. Currently, we have about 500 people watching. We would love to double or triple that as well. So if you share, if you make a comment, that'll help to allow other people to see this. I am going to make sure we get a little bit better look of that Y. You are looking at the live lighting of the BYU Y in Provo. Let's also give you a shot of what's happening up on the hill as well. This is a live camera shot of BYU Y and a flashlight holder. Incredible view up on the Y right now. Each one of those colors that you see is being held by an ally, a friend, a family member of the LGBTQ community. They are not defacing any property. They are not hurting. They're not spreading paint or graffiti. They are holding a flashlight next to the iconic BYU Y, and as you look up and see, it is in the colors of support for the transgender community. We also know from our crew that we do have at the trailhead that BYU Police Department is present at the trailhead. They are suited, and they either are preparing to make the hike up to the Y on their own, or they will be meeting these people who are hiking the Y with flashlights at the base of the trailhead. So that is what's happening this evening. We are thankful to have you along with us. For those of you who are joining us from the Mormon Stories podcast audience, we welcome you. We welcome you to this special LatterGayStories broadcast as we, in solidarity, support the LGBTQ community at BYU. You are currently watching a live view of the BYU Y that is lit up in transgender colors in support of the transgender community, specifically at the BYU campus, but broadly among our friends and family who are impacted and blessed by the transgender community. The plan is to allow the Y to stay lit for 30 minutes in this color. And then at the conclusion, the lights will switch into a rainbow color. It does depend on whether or not, as we have been told, BYU Police Department is making their way up to the hill, up to the Y. If that indeed happens, there probably will be a quick change and things will happen a little faster. So excited to see so many friends and family members up there on the Y supporting the LGBTQ community. We can take a quick shot of what is happening at the trailhead. From the trailhead, you can see a shot there of what looks like the Provo Temple and a shot of the valley. We also have cameras up on the Y. You can see each of those volunteers holding a flashlight, an LED flashlight, to help illuminate the Y. I think it's pretty cool. What do you guys think? I think it's a pretty incredible sight to be able to see what's happening here in Provo today. We want to thank those of you who are joining us. You will see that just, there we go, over my shoulder. The iconic BYU Y is lit up in transgender colors this spring, almost spring, evening in Provo, Utah. It's been a long day, I'll tell you that. Thank you, Jacob Williams, for being a super fan of the Mormon Stories podcast. We appreciate that on behalf of the Mormon Stories family. We are, for those of you just joining us, we are broadcasting all over Provo today. The iconic BYU Y has been lit up in transgender colors in what some would say defiance of BYU's new demonstration and protest policy, which we have been in contact with a number of attorneys and law enforcement professionals who have discussed whether or not this is legal to enforce this demonstration policy on behalf of the BYU campus. For those of you who didn't join weren't able to join us earlier in the broadcast, I just want to give you a brief update as to what's happening. In December of 2021, BYU updated their demonstration policy to say that any gathering of 2 or more people without a permit at BYU is considered a demonstration. And without a permit to demonstrate, you would be liable for expulsion of you and your group from the campus. So BYU would kick you off of campus. They also have elected within their policy to have you arrested and charged with a misdemeanor for demonstrating on private property, BYU campus property. They listed a number of things that they felt falls within this policy of demonstration and protest. So according to BYU's policy, one of the first things that they want to do is they first are supposed to ask you directly to leave, and that ask has to be given by an authorized university personnel only, and this is according to the BYU demonstration policy, to current students, faculty, administrative employees, and staff. And that would be if you're participating in a unapproved demonstration. Now, here's the interesting part about BYU's demonstration policy. If you were to gather together more than 2 people, you are supposed to apply for a permit to demonstrate, wait 5 days. Once that 5-day period, within that 5-day period, you're supposed to have heard something back from BYU responding to your protest. However, there are a number of things that are completely prohibited. You cannot get an approval to do a number of things. You cannot get a protest approved anywhere within university buildings or facilities, including any athletic facilities. You cannot get a demonstration approved near places where minors or other vulnerable populations are present. You cannot get a demonstration approved with any university-sponsored event. And you cannot, and this is specific, you cannot get a demonstration approved on university-owned portions of Y Mountain, including the trail and the Y symbol. Right now, BYU, who does have ownership in the BYU Mountain, the BYU trailhead leading up to the Y and the Y symbol, BYU does own that. That is clear. But in 2014, when BYU purchased the mountain and when they purchased the Y symbol and trailhead, which was sitting on property that was owned by the US government, they agreed as part of the purchase agreement to continue to allow public access to the trailhead and portion of the Y Mountain. And this was Section 2. For those of you who want to pull this up, this is House Bill 253 of the 113th Congress in 2014. They're to continue to allow the same reasonable public access to the trailhead and specific access to the Y symbol located on land described within that purchase agreement. So it's really confusing to a number of attorneys. On background, we had a number of attorneys who that we spoke with prior to holding this event, who said that this is an interesting opportunity for BYU to, if BYU does indeed arrest or cite the people who are up on the BYU Mountain right now,
Hey, Kyle.
this will be an interesting case.
BYU cops are up here talking to people.
Mainly because they are trying a law. They're asking a court to side with them by saying, we believe that even though the property is private, you can restrict what happens on private property in terms of a trespass if indeed the deed that was transferred to BYU says that public access must be granted to the general public. So this will be an interesting case for BYU to try to convince a court, if indeed they are going to arrest the people who are holding flashlights on the Y right now. They will have to convince a court that the agreement that they made in the purchase of the Y Mountain, the Y Trailhead, and the Y symbol says that they have the right to enforce this demonstration policy. I do think that BYU, I'm not an attorney, but I do believe BYU runs into a separate problem because their demonstration policy says that that applies only to current students, faculty, administrative employees, and staff. So I'm not quite sure how BYU will argue that allies, and I can confirm that there are no BYU students up on the BYU Mountain right now. These are friends, allies, and community members who are supporting the LGBTQ community by holding a flashlight on a trailhead that the government has ensured that they have access to. So welcome. Hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of you are following us right now. Welcome to this special live broadcast with the LatterGayStories podcast, with the Mormon Stories podcast, with the many other groups who are sharing right now. Many of you are asking, is this real life? Is this really happening? And indeed it is. You are looking at a trans lit Y in Provo, Utah on a beautiful March evening, as more and more visibility is created for the LGBTQ community. For those of you who didn't join us in the first part of this broadcast, we have multiple cameras in multiple locations. We do have, in fact, let me just take you up on the Y right now, and you can see that beautiful view as people are holding flashlights against the concrete covered mountainside shaped as a Y. And a beautiful look at the Provo Valley, a tad bit shaky. But who gets this opportunity? Wherever you're watching throughout the world, we want to welcome you. Kind of a cool opportunity to be able to see that look and that view. We do have multiple cameras throughout the valley. One at the trailhead, where we have been informed that the BYU Police Department is waiting for these, and I say air quote, protesters who are holding flashlights. They are waiting at the trailhead. Here in a couple of minutes, in fact, you're seeing it happen right now. The lights are switching now. They will be transitioning from the transgender colors into rainbow colors. So you can watch that live as it happens, as we broadcast from the LatterGayStories podcast. Welcome to the Mormon Stories audience as well. What a beautiful sight. Look at that. As each color now unfolds on the iconic BYU Y. And you're watching that happen from wherever you are seeing this live feed. We invite you to share this broadcast. We invite you to make a comment as well. Let us know where you are watching from. Super interested in that. I do want to just personally say thank you. Thank you for participating in this live stream. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for following the LatterGayStories podcast, and for the many, many people who have supported us through sharing our episodes, through better understanding of the LGBTQ experience, through financially supporting the LatterGayStory podcast. All right, we're also now hearing, I'm gonna take move our shot up to the Y. I was just informed that the cops have walked up to the trailhead. So the BYU Police Department is on the Y with the community members who are holding flashlights. They are interviewing people individually under the advice of the ACLU. Also attorney advice. Each of those people who are up on the Y have been given a set of instructions, so they are aware of their rights. But we have been informed that they have left the trailhead, where we do have cameras at the base of the Y mountain. The cops have made their way up to the Y, and they are now personally interviewing each of those individual people. We'll take a wide shot there of the Y as well, for those of you who want to see that. Yes, a lot of people are asking why cops are concerned with people with flashlights. That's a really great question. This is a question that we've been asking BYU for a number of months now. They did change the policy in December of 2021, saying anyone who gathers 2 or more people without a permit on school property they are in violation of that policy, which carries with it a misdemeanor infraction. Those who are on the mountain right now that you're looking at holding flashlights were aware of the BYU policy. They also consulted with a number of attorneys who are very anxious to take on a case like this, where access to the Y trail, and access to the Y symbol was promised to the public with the purchase of this piece of property. So BYU does legally own the land surrounding, on top of, and around the Y. They own the Y symbol, but they were able to purchase that with the agreement that they would allow complete public access. Reasonable public access is what the HR 253 was, the bill that was signed with the United States Congress. BYU now believes that they are able to enforce their demonstration policy. So they do, and some of you might be unaware of this as well, but BYU does have their own police department that is, and it's been mired in controversy. If you followed some of the news stories about what was happening with the BYU police department, some officers or an officer with the BYU Police Department was leaking information between departments, and also allegedly with the Honor Code Office at BYU. There was a time where the state tried to decertify the BYU Police Department, and but as it stands, the BYU Police Department is a viable municipal enforcement agency, and they likely are the officers who are up on the hill right now. There's a live shot that you can see community and family members behind the fence there, are shot from behind the fence. People who are holding flashlights. They are not damaging. They are not defacing. They are not trespassing on the Y, according to the agreement that BYU has in place, the purchase agreement that BYU agreed to as part of the purchase of this property. I'm going to give you a live shot, a wide shot of the Y. For those of you who are just joining us, we are looking at the Y in Provo, above the BYU campus, lit in rainbow colors. A few minutes ago, beginning around 8 o'clock, the Y was lit in transgender colors. So pink, blue, and white. And what you're currently looking at now is the Y in rainbow colors in solidarity for the BYU LGBTQ community, but globally for our LGBTQ family, wherever you're at throughout the world. Know, especially from me and the LatterGayStories podcast, that you are not alone. It is events like this, opportunities like this, help to show you that you are supported by community members. It doesn't matter if police departments want to show up. It doesn't matter if there are misdemeanor citations that are issued tonight. Know to the LGBTQ community that you are loved. You are appreciated. You are seen. And that is why people are on the hill today. That is why people are holding flashlights, who are not BYU students, who are willing to risk getting a misdemeanor citation to show the Latter-day Saint community that we exist, to show the Latter-day Saint community that there are queer members of their family and congregations among them. Incredible shot there of the BYU Y. We're going to take you up on the mountain as well. I believe it was on March 9th. So about 10 days ago, BYU administrators sent their maintenance crew up to the Y, and they fenced off the trail that leads, that allowed you to walk right to the concrete Y symbol. There are also some benches up there and some tables. You can see a shot of that fence right there. I understand it is plastic, and they did put signs all around saying that it is anybody who crosses that fence is in violation of their demonstration policy. But that is what exists up there right now. BYU did that as a way to try to prevent people from apparently accessing the Y. But fences apparently are designed to fall down. I'm going to take you out to the trailhead as well. We have cameras at the trailhead, and we are starting to see police officers, maybe some backup officers arrive at the trailhead. There's another squad car that is pulled up at the trailhead. There we go. Now we get a little better shot for you. At earlier count, we saw about 9. It seemed like there were 9 police officers who were at the trailhead. They were about 20 minutes behind the people who are up on the Y as of right now. So it did take them a little bit of time to get up there. We did see some officers that were staging a little bit earlier. We saw some fully vested officers who are up there throughout the daylight hours of today. We want to make sure that you see what we see. So thank you for those who are joining us. That is a live shot right now of the BYU trailhead. That is, from what I can tell, BYU Police Department squad vehicles that are in the parking lot. We also have been informed by people who are up on the Y Mountain as well that there are officers who have made their way up to Yep, that is a BYU police vehicle. So that is the BYU Police Department. We did confirm that officers did hike the trail as well. So there are officers that are up on the Y, and I'll give you a shot of that. We do have cameras up on the Y. We have cameras down below. We have cameras shooting from Provo on the Y. And we have cameras there at the trailhead as well. That is a live shot. You can see going strong in solidarity for the LGBTQ community. Those are community members who risked being cited with a misdemeanor citation. They are risking $1,000 fine and jail time in order to shine those lights and to show the LGBTQ community that you're being seen, that you're heard, that you're not alone, you're not broken, and that your best days are ahead. Super incredible. We want to welcome the hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of you who are following right now. Please share this on your feed, comment, let us know where you are watching from. We are excited to have you here, excited to involve you in this, what we believe is a historic event. This will be the first time that I'm aware of that BYU is taking the initiative to either cite or remove what BYU has deemed a protester or demonstrators from this opportunity to show or handle a flashlight. It's so mind-boggling to me. So we want to thank you, many of you who are participating via this live stream. As you can tell, right there, kind of up in the top corner, you can see that Y. We have officers who are now interviewing some of our camera crew up on the Y as well. So that is an interesting turn of events. For those of you who did catch that shot just a minute ago, we have multiple crews. There are a national film crew that is up on the Y right now. There is a documentary crew that is up on the Y filming this. We have our LatterGayStories production crew that is up on the Y as well, giving you those amazing live shots. We do have a crew that is in the parking lot. We are now seeing more and more BYU vehicles that are filling into the trailhead. We saw a number of maintenance vehicles that showed up with barriers and cones. We did see at least a dozen marked police cars. We were able to see some unmarked vehicles that showed up a little earlier in the evening. Interesting. There's a great shot of the Provo Temple in the background. This is indeed a Christ-like showing from BYU towards friends and family members of the LGBTQ community who are holding flashlights on a mountainside that the U.S. government sold BYU with the express right to have and not prohibit public access to. Allow you to watch that for a moment. Yes, a lot of questions in the live chat. People are asking, how is it that BYU can enforce this policy, this demonstration policy, when the law says that indeed the land was to remain public? We agree with that. We don't understand that. We have had multiple discussions with attorneys from the Utah Attorney General's office. We've had multiple discussions with other law enforcement agencies. All of them are scratching their heads, wondering how on earth a court will side with BYU if indeed they do take any of this to court. So we're going to give you another wide view of what's happening right there up on the trail. And lights are now flickering off. We do know that the BYU Police Department, the officers from the BYU Police Department have made their way to the Y. They have reached the Y up on the mountain. They are now interviewing each person who has held a flashlight individually. I do know that each of those people have been briefed with instructions. So I'm not going to interfere and have our crew directly film those conversations live, but I do know that those conversations are being filmed and recorded up on the mountain, and I'm sure we can bring that to you a little later. We should let's do a side shot here. Sorry, because we have multiple, our crew is all over the place. So there we go. What you're seeing on the opposite side of the screen is just the remaining flickers of a few lights that are left in that almost 40-minute show of solidarity for the LGBTQ community. Up on the mountain are a number of community supporters, friends and family members of the LGBTQ community who took upon themselves the opportunity to take a flashlight and walk it up the trail and shine a colored light on the Y in a show of support for the transgender and the gay community, that there are Latter-day Saints, there are family members, there are community members who support this great cause and support the LGBTQ community. Just a couple lights left upon the mountain. We did see a few off. So the reason why a lot of people are asking, so why the cops? We are asking the same question as well. BYU believes that this is trespassing. They believe this is a demonstration. They believe that holding a flashlight on public on land that has been authorized for public access is equivalent to a misdemeanor charge, which does include some jail time and a fine. So that's what's happening. Why are they turning them off? People are now asking in the chat why the lights are going off. It was planned to be a 30 to 60 minute display. It lasted just a little bit shy of 40 minutes, but we are being told that officers are gathering each of those people up on the mountain individually and interviewing them. And as they're pulling them away, that's why you're seeing those lights go off. So that's what's happening. We're in Provo, everybody. So welcome to the many of you who are joining us on this broadcast. We are excited to have you along. We do still have we have a camera that is sitting at the trailhead, so we're gonna hold tight here for a little bit, maybe answer some of your questions, because we do know that some of those people who are up on the mountain right now will be making their way down. The BYU Police Department has officers at the trailhead, which is located a few miles from where I'm broadcasting right now. We have camera crews in the parking lot at that trailhead. Typically, on a normal day, the community will just drive to the trailhead. There are a few layered or tiered parking areas that allow people to park, and then there's some restroom facilities, and then you make your way up to the nearly 2-mile trail that gets you up to the Y. So we know officers have stationed themselves in the parking lot right now. We've confirmed that. We've watched that throughout the afternoon. We do believe that the officers, BYU Police Department, was likely aware of what was happening this evening. And so they did prepare. They had marked and unmarked cars that were at the trailhead. But they were not stopping anybody as they made their way through the gate and into or onto the mountain for the hike. We now have been informed by people who are up on the mountain that the police officers have made their way to the Y. So they are up on the Y symbol themselves, and now they are interviewing the people who are former flashlight holders. We don't understand the legalities. We have discussed with a number of attorneys and a number of law enforcement agencies regarding BYU's ability to enforce a misdemeanor charge, BYU Police Department's ability to force a misdemeanor charge upon community members when the policy at the university expressly says that current students, faculty, administrative employees, and staff are the ones responsible or must adhere to the demonstration policy. So the question really is, does BYU have the authority to cite people who are not current students, faculty, administrative employees, and staff. And that will be, if indeed they do, that will be a question that will be up for likely the 4th District Court of the state of Utah, which covers the Provo area. Like I mentioned throughout the broadcast, we have had multiple conversations with law enforcement officers. We've had multiple conversations with attorneys with the Utah Attorney General's office, with private practice attorneys as well, who all are shaking their heads, scratching their heads, wondering under what authority BYU has to cite these individuals who held flashlights on property that they had the right to trespass on. Now, BYU has vaguely cited that this would be an issue of trespass. They also have cited a Utah rule, and I actually had a copy of that. Let me see. I'll pull that up. They had cited a rule that possibly holding a flashlight could be deemed burglary. I believe I thought I wrote that. Oh, I did. Utah Code 76-6-206. Now, this is a code that's been cited up on the BYU Y as well. So they have posted this publicly, that the code that deals with criminal trespass, which mainly regards damage to property, graffiti, or destroying the Y, which in our conversations with attorneys said, if BYU Police Department does indeed cite under 76-6-206, it likely would be because they said something up on the Y was damaged. And this did happen a number of years ago when the Y was painted red from followers, students, or fans of the University of Utah. A few occasions, the Y has been damaged or defaced. And the attorneys that we discussed this situation with agreed that that code would be in place for someone who does damage property. But we all, and I don't think you have to be not a BYU administrator to realize that holding a flashlight over a 380-foot concrete Y does not constitute graffiti or damage. Further, most of the people who are descending the mountain right now, the general public, are holding flashlights, just like the people who have flashlights up on the Y currently. So very interesting opportunity for BYU to either flex their muscles and try to enforce their 2021, December 2021 demonstration policy. We're here live to watch it with you. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for sticking with us. If you are just joining the broadcast, we want to welcome you and kind of give you an update as to what's been happening this evening. We are doing a multiple platform broadcast. So if you are watching us on the Mormon Stories platform, we welcome you to the LatterGayStories podcast, where we do things like this frequently. We try to stay involved in the LGBTQ community and what's happening in politics, in civics, in government, in the religious community. We want to highlight and share the lived experiences of the LGBTQ community. We want to show with solidarity that we support the LGBTQ community, and that is what we're doing this evening. Beginning at 8 o'clock this evening, a number of individuals hiked the Y Mountain Trail and lit the Y with handheld flashlights in two separate displays. The first was a display of transgender colors, blue, pink, and white, which is the first time we've seen the Y lit up in something other than just white or rainbow colors. So that lasted about 15 minutes, and then the lights were switched to a rainbow color, and that rainbow color just ended a few minutes ago. Here at the end of the broadcast, you'll be able to rewatch this, so you can go back and view that. It was beautiful. It was remarkable, and it was a good opportunity to show solidarity and support for the LGBTQ community. Now, up on the mountainside are no students of BYU, no faculty of BYU, no staff of BYU. that were on the mountain holding flashlights. But as we have just been notified about 15 minutes ago, BYU Police Department officers did make their way to the top of to the trailhead, through the top of the trailhead and into the area where the people are holding flashlights, and they have now individually began to interview them. We don't know if they're being detained. We don't know if they're being questioned. We don't know if they're being searched. But we do know that the police department does have officers at the top of the mountain interviewing the individuals who held flashlights. As soon as we do find something else out regarding that, we will keep you up to date and let you know. This is kind of a almost live look of the gate. This is the gate that leads into the entrance of the trailhead. Now, people, you could, on the right-hand side of your screen, there's a little entry, a walkway there. We wondered, and then that's how people, that is the beginning of the trailhead. That's how people would make their way up to the top. We did wonder initially if the officers would open the gates and drive ATVs or UTVs through the gate to access the Y symbol a little quicker. That did not happen. It appears that the BYU officers walked their way to the top of the mountain, which is a little under a 2-mile hike, and it takes about 40 minutes to do that hike. Maybe it's, if I remember, it's around 1 point something. So it is a little bit of a hike to get up to the top there. So we have been informed the officers made their way to the top of the mountain. This is a camera, the LatterGayStories crew that we've got in multiple locations. We did have crews earlier in the broadcast. You did see crews up on the Y. So we got some incredible, beautiful shots of the Provo Valley, the Utah Valley. We also got some great shots of people who were holding flashlights. And now we are just waiting for either the people who are holding flashlights to come down the trailhead, or to see some of these officers make their way through. So interesting turn of events. Interesting opportunity for BYU to flex their muscles. This was something that I think at some point some group was ready to try and take BYU up on their threat to see indeed whether or not BYU would charge these people as protesters, as trespassers, for holding a flashlight against the iconic Y in Provo. All right, yeah, a lot of people are wondering if the phones are ringing at Curtin and McConkey, the offices at Curtin and McConkey. I would imagine that has been the case. Curtin and McConkey is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints law firm. Prior to this event happening, I do know that a number of attorneys were consulted regarding the strength of BYU's demonstration policy in court. And those attorneys range from private practice attorneys, with the Utah Attorney General's office. I know the ACLU was also contacted. So a number of people have stepped up to offer some advice. And it really, if indeed the BYU Police Department is issuing citations to those who have been up on the mountain this evening, then this now becomes a case for the 4th District Court located here in Provo to adjudicate. We do know that there have been offers of people to help with the financial burden that may come into play for the $1,000 fine and also court fees. So we do know of a number of people who have offered to start contributing to that. I think that's maybe a tad bit early because we don't know really what BYU is doing at this point, but you can definitely rest assured that we are going to stay on top of this and many other interesting turns of events that BYU finds itself in. A lot of this just comes down to the BYU community, the student population, wanting visibility and better understanding in regards to the university and staff of the school that they attend. These students who are often marginalized and ostracized are also Latter-day Saints, even though they are members of the LGBTQ community. I think that part of the conversation is also, or too often missed, that people say, why allow the LGBTQ community to be so loud and so defiant? It's not just the LGBTQ community. It's not just this singular community. These people who are represented in the LGBTQ community are also Latter-day Saints. And many of them are also BYU students. And that's why this takes on this seal of living reality. That's why this is such an intriguing experience, where BYU, and we've noticed this, the most recent has been BYU's inability to serve transgender clients in their speech and language clinic. BYU just released, and you can find this on the LatterGayStories Facebook page and our Instagram page, a 4-page letter to their accrediting agency, ASHA, essentially saying we value our ability to discriminate against the LGBTQ community. We, as a religious institution, discriminate by law, legally, against this marginalized community. We also saw that with the Title IX actions that have been taken against BYU, and BYU's defiance against treating a marginalized community with dignity and respect. And they again said, we have the right to discriminate against this marginalized community under the Title IX protections of the law. So I don't think we are mincing words when we say BYU has indeed relished or appreciated the fact that it does discriminate against the LGBTQ community. So we have the Title IX issues, we have the transgender speech therapy issues, we have the new demonstration policy that prohibited LGBTQ people from what BYU is saying, demonstrate on campus, which is a group of people greater than 2 who assemble on campus. BYU has now said that is an illegal act, and that is against their demonstration policy. We do know that during Rainbow Day last week, that officials from the BYU Dean's office they did remove students from campus for gathering together. Students who were just wearing rainbow, students who had rainbow backpacks were asked to leave campus because the BYU Dean's office deemed that a protest and a demonstration. So that too has happened at this campus just within the last few weeks. So if you are joining us and wondering what happened tonight, for the last about 45 minutes ago, beginning right around 8 o'clock, a number of community members and a number of community members and allies of the LGBTQ community hiked up the Y trailhead to the Y symbol on Y Mountain in Provo, and illuminated the Y in a show of 2 separate displays of color. The first was transgender colors, pink, blue, and white. The second was a rainbow display that lasted in total about 30 minutes. During the rainbow portion, the rainbow display portion of the event, our crew up on the Y, and we had cameras in multiple locations this evening, did confirm that BYU officers did make their way to the top of the Y symbol, and they have now begun to interview people up there individually. We have turned our cameras off, and I don't know if our cameras were shut off voluntarily, or if the police department requested that our cameras that were up on the Y be terminated. We'll have to find that out a little later. I've tried to reach out to our crews that are up there without response yet. We do not know if the individuals have been detained up on the mountain. We don't know if they're being searched. We don't know if they are simply being asked to vacate BYU property, which is one of the stipulations or one of the caveats in BYU's demonstration policy that a BYU official, an administrator, or a police officer can ask a demonstrator to vacate school property. We don't know if that's happening right now, but we do know that there are officers up on the mountain right now. There are about over 40 community members, parents, civic leaders who are also up on the mountain who just finished their light display. And we're just really waiting, kind of in hold, wondering, just like you, what's going to happen next. Will we see people come down in handcuffs? This will be interesting to see if if BYU does indeed arrest any of these protesters, as they're calling them, demonstrators, or if they are just being simply asked to vacate BYU property and make their way down the hill. Yeah, we're just awaiting information, just as you are. I'm going to take you back to the, see if we have a live shot. We do have cameras at the trailhead as well. The trailhead is where the majority of the vehicles are parked for people who are hiking up on the mountain. We did see earlier in the afternoon a couple BYU Police Department vehicles that made their way through. We are throughout the evening, as we did this live broadcast, we did see a number of those BYU police officers who did show up with in marked and unmarked vehicles. So they were showing up in BYU Police Department vehicles. They also were showing up in unmarked cars and in plainclothes police officers. There were multiple security details that were also on the mountain in support of the film crews, the crews that are bringing you this broadcast, and also the members of the community who are holding flashlights. So a number of law and public safety officials are up on the mountain right now. This is just interesting. It's exciting to watch, exciting to kind of see unfold as BYU flexes its demonstration policy muscles in Provo this March evening. It was a beautiful day to hold flashlights over an iconic Y. That did happen around 8 o'clock this evening and lasted for about 30 minutes or so as the people who were holding flashlights up on the Y gave two separate displays of color, one to support the transgender community specifically with pink and blue and white lights, and then also a final show of solidarity to the LGBTQ community with a show of rainbow light displays over the iconic BYU Y. All right, yeah, I'll take you back to our trailhead with a kind of a shot over Provo. That's pretty much what's happening now. We don't know what will happen in probably another 20 or 30 minutes as the people who are walking down the trail make their way to the top of the trailhead. But we are just as interested in it as you are. We want to thank the there's nearly 1,000 people who have been watching this live broadcast simultaneously. So we want to thank you. We want to thank you for sharing this and allowing other people to see what you're seeing. In my opinion, I think this is a historic event. This really will test BYU to see whether or not they indeed want to restrict community members from hiking the iconic Y. You're seeing cars there that are leaving. These perhaps could be people who are part of the light show that are now leaving the parking lot, or these are community members, other community members who have been on the mountain this evening. BYU, according to their own statistics, say that there are between 400 and 1,000 people who are who climb the trail every day. So a number of community members not associated with the light show were on the mountain, and I'm not completely sure how BYU Police Department is treating the members of the public who are also there for an evening hike. But we do have, as I mentioned earlier, crews both on the mountain and at the trailhead who are asking those questions as well. And I'm certain, I mean, for privacy reasons, obviously, and potentially for legal reasons, we're not going to immediately interview anybody who is up on the mountain, because we do want to respect that portion of this story. But do know that we will follow up with it. We will stay involved with it. This is exactly why we are broadcasting an event like this. A few questions. Are the people up on the trail advised to comply if policed? So to answer your question, we don't know exactly what the BYU Police Department is asking the people who are holding flashlights. We do know from some of our contacts on the mountain, the BYU Police Department officers were interviewing people individually. We don't know if they were searching or seizing property. We don't know if they were searching pockets or backpacks for evidence of anything that might have been part of this light show. We don't know if they are being detained. We don't know if they are have been read rights, if they are under arrest. All of that is really vague right now. We are assuming that the cameras that we did have up on the mountain, the police department did ask for those to be shut off. And we are assuming that because they did just terminate. And my guess is that happened as people were, as officers were making their way to each of those people individually. First and foremost, for those of, for the people who have helped us on the LatterGayStories production side of this, I want only for them to comply with the officers, listen to what the officers have to say, be respectful. We're not out here to hurt, destroy, or damage property, but as we've discussed throughout the evening, we're here to show solidarity and support for the LGBTQ community, and that's really what's happened this evening up on the mountain. We're going to take you back to the trailhead. More and more vehicles are leaving. There are officers and security that is stationed there at the trailhead. I'm not sure if I do know what the this is being filmed. This is also being covered as part of a documentary. There are security officials with that documentary that are at multiple locations today. I do see a gentleman standing there in the parking lot, and I'm not certain if that person is part of the film crew security detail, if that is one of our security details, or if that is part of the BYU Police Department. But there is someone there in the parking lot. You can see some officer vehicles still at the trailhead, and likely some community members who are taking advantage of the view, as you are as well. We do apologize. Sometimes we get a little fuzzy video, but for all intents and purposes, this has been a exciting and interesting broadcast. For the last hour and 15 minutes, we've been here in Provo. We have been broadcasting the lighting of the iconic BYU Y in two colors in a unusual and unique display of support for the LGBTQ community. In particular, the first 15 minutes of tonight's display was the colors of the transgender flag, pink, blue, and white. And the rainbow, or the Y rather, was shown in that iconic transgender color, transgender flag colors. And then a few minutes directly after that display, a rainbow illumination occurred up on the Y. So those are the two displays. We do have that at the beginning of this broadcast. We are still going live. So as soon as this broadcast does end, you'll be able to rewatch that and see as this has unfolded. We did anticipate that at some point BYU and their police department would ascend on the trail, and that has happened. We have all taken risk in order to broadcast and show you this event. We have a number of people up on the Y, up on the symbol, who have literally risked being arrested, being charged with a misdemeanor, being fined $1,000 in order to show their support in solidarity for the LGBTQ community. You're watching live now a steady trail of hikers who are leaving the Y Mountain. We hope that at this point we have not seen anybody leave in handcuffs. We've not seen anyone leave via restraint by a BYU police department officer. But we do know that there are officers at the base of the trail in this area that you're looking at right now. We do know that there are officers there. We know that there are officers that met these community members up on the Y. Our immediate hope is that when the officers did converge on this group that were holding flashlights up on the Y, that they did as the demonstration policy at BYU indicates. They were asked to leave BYU property. If that is the case, then these individuals should be free just to walk home, walk down the trail and into their cars and drive home. If that didn't happen, there is a chance that a number of these individuals will be charged with misdemeanor offenses, which carry jail time and $1,000 fine, which BYU has been all but proud to display with signs and in their communications lately through their public relations department. So yes, and thank you, I should say, to the many of you. Nearly 1,000 people now have followed this live stream for the last hour. We do apologize. Occasionally we got some blurry video in and out. Let me see if we can grab some audio here.
Come on, I was ready.
Disappointing. At least could have done is thrown some tear.
I don't know if you guys can hear us at all.
Right? Oh, that was fun.
No, they probably can't.
My wife and she can.
We'll mute their audio there, but yeah, I am happy to see some of those hikers have made their way down from the mountain. It doesn't appear to be arrested, unrestrained from the light show that happened just about an hour ago here in Provo. I did want to thank you, many of you, for participating in this live broadcast. If you are watching on the Mormon Stories platform, we welcome you to the LatterGayStories podcast, and thank you for being part of the affirming LGBTQ community, part of the community of allies who support the LGBTQ community. We're thankful and grateful to have you along and part of this. We're being told that we should wrap up the broadcast here. We will go meet some of the people at the trailhead. If there is something largely remarkable, we'll bring this back into a second live broadcast. If not, I'm going to kind of debrief the audience through the LatterGayStories podcast. So stay tuned to our Facebook page. If you haven't subscribed or liked the LatterGayStories podcast, we invite you to do that. We not only have a video and audio version of the podcast, but we also are very active on social media. We have a TikTok, a Instagram channel, and also our YouTube and Facebook page. This is being broadcast live on our Facebook page and our YouTube channels. We also will be doing, as we will inform our audience the best we can through our Facebook page as well and Instagram. We invite you to follow those two platforms as well. We invite you to continue to support the LatterGayStories podcast. If that just means sharing content like this, we welcome it. Just clicking the share button, the subscribe button, the like button does wonders for our ability to build bigger and stronger bridges between the LDS and LGBTQ community. It does wonders for us sharing content like this and creating visibility for the LGBTQ community. If you financially want to help and support the Latter Gay Stories podcast, we would also love that as well. Your financial support helps us do broadcasts like this. It helps us put the equipment, the manpower, the media, the tools into these spaces where we can show you what's happening. And none of our staff are paid. We do this on a volunteer basis. So if you do want to support the Latter Gay Stories podcast via donation, we welcome that. You can do that right now by clicking on our donate tab on our website at LatterGayStories.org. We're also Venmo friendly at LatterGayStories, and we appreciate our monthly or one-time donors who help support the Latter Gay Stories podcast. That's LatterGayStories.org on our website, or Venmo friendly at LatterGayStories. Again, we want to thank you for sticking with us throughout the evening, for participating in this live broadcast, for your support of the Latter Gay Stories podcast, for the Mormon Stories podcast, but more importantly, your support for the LGBTQ community. Really, at the end of the day, families like you have been impacted by this topic because what the church, through its policy and pulpit, says does not match the lived experience of what you are seeing over the kitchen table. When you have a son, a daughter, a spouse, a friend that is impacted by this topic, you get to see them for who and what they are. You know that they are not all the things the church warned or promised you that they were in regards to void of the spirit, contagions, diseased, maladies. When you look at your LGBTQ friends and family members, you see them for the good people that they are, not for the awful things the church has said about them. And that's really that show of support that we saw today. I want you, each of you, closet or not, to know that you are not alone, that you are not broken, and that your best days are ahead. And today was a great opportunity for you to see that there is a whole community of people who are here to support you. I will support you, and I will continue to share your stories through this platform and others to help other people see, know, and come to better understand the LGBTQ community. Thank you, all of you, for participating in this live broadcast. Thank you for all of the good that you do for the LGBTQ community in and out of Mormonism. Thank you. We will keep you up to date and keep you informed as to what happens throughout the rest of the evening, but it does look like the people who participated in the light show this evening were able to come off the mountain without being arrested and without being charged. So we're excited for that. We will keep you up to date if we do find out something more. But thank you to our Mormon Stories friends, for those who have shared this episode, and for our Latter Gay Stories audience who continues to support podcast episodes just like this. Thank you. Have a good night and continue to love, 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 love.